And that lasted all night, but I just thought, oh, this is just like soreness from a vaccine. I've had vaccines before.
This is the new pain. This is different to anything you've experienced before.
This is new pain. Yeah. Up around the lungs, but on the back.
How bad was it? I mean, how bad was the pain out of 10? Was it sort of manageable or?
It was manageable, but I didn't sleep. I was just like, yeah, this sucks.
Sure.
But it was manageable. The next morning, obviously, I was completely zapped. I felt really tired. And I thought it was just because I hadn't slept. So I took the day off from exercising that day. The day after that, I went back to the gym and I hopped on the bike. And within the first minute of me trying to ride, it felt like I'd done about 20 minutes, like flat stick. I was just completely gassed. And I was kind of thinking, what is going on? So I slowed down a bit and I just did 5 minutes, and I usually do 20 as a warm-up. And then I just did some really light knee rehab, but nothing cardio-wise. And because I felt so flat and that was weird, I took another day off exercising. But here's where I made a mistake, which I didn't know was a mistake. The next day I went back to the gym, and being someone who usually pushes through, if you're feeling tired, you go, nah, we're going to get this done.
You run through the pain, yeah.
I did that. I ran through the pain, I did my full cardio, and I did my full upper body as well, and then I had a sauna, which I've had for the last 2 years every day. I was obviously gassed through the whole thing. It was very difficult.
Because you're used to pushing yourself. You can kind of run through that, can't you, and force yourself to do it.
Yeah. Like being pretty experienced in the sauna, I know when my max is, and I was tired, but I hadn't hit it. But that night is when things got pretty bad for me. So about the same time when I was having trouble breathing, and then when I went to go to bed, I couldn't lie down because the weight on my chest was too much when I lied down, and it made breathing even harder. My heart rate was really high. I didn't have a monitor at the time. I bought that like a week after.
This is hours after exercise, your heart rate was still really high.
Really high. Like,
so if you're young and fit, as you are, your heart rate would probably be about 50 when you go to bed.
Yeah, definitely. I think mine was lower than that before. Yeah. I think it was like 540s maybe.
Now we're probably talking about 100 or more.
Yeah, I'd had a recording of 160 once I got my Fitbit, which was a lot after. That was when I went to hospital December 27th again. So, yeah, it was really high.
That's pretty frightening, isn't it?
So I was scared, yeah. I had left arm pain all the way down, all the way like to my hands. And so I was tight, I was having palpitations. It didn't feel like my heart was operating correctly. Like I'd never felt this before. I should have gone to hospital. Mistake number 2.
So you've got the chest and the left arm pain, which is classic.
Yeah, I regret
not going. Cardiac pain, isn't it? But of course, no one warned you about this.
No.
I mean, you're not a medical professional. Why should you know about this stuff?
No, and now I know too much.
Well, indeed. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So that lasted the whole night. So obviously I had a shocker night. It kind of went away by the morning, and I sort of felt okay. But then this persisted for the next like 3 to 4 days, where I just felt completely gassed. My heart rate was super high. I couldn't focus. I was having left arm pains. My chest was heavy. And then I took myself to hospital. It might have been 4 or 5 days after. I can't remember exactly.
So you're pretty tough and you kind of hacked through it up till that point.
Yeah, but the reason I went to hospital was because I got to the point where I got in my car to go down the coast, and I went, I might have a heart attack. This is concerning. If I'm down the coast and no one can get to me, I'm in trouble. So that's how concerned I was. So I went to hospital. I wasn't having major issues at the time. They ran every test they could on me. I did have to wait because I didn't say I was having major issues at the time, but that's on me. So they did an X-ray, an ECG, is that the one where they put all the things on you?
Electrocardiogram,
and took my bloods. The only thing was my heart rate was high in there. I think it was around, it might be on the paperwork, 120 or 140 or something. I could have also been nervous in there too. So I was pretty scared at the time.
Well, of course. but 120, 140 is normally slightly more than nervousness and anxiety.
Yeah. I didn't tell anyone in the hospital that I'd had the vaccine 5 days earlier because I wanted to get treated for my symptoms.
Sure.
I know you're supposed to. At the end of all the tests, our nurse came in and said, "Is there anything else that you haven't told me?" And I then told her, and she said, "You really should have told us that." And she went and relayed that information as well.
She was probably thinking about drugs, things like cocaine could do that, for example.
Oh, yeah, they asked me that at the start, and I said no. They also asked me if I had anxiety, and I've never had it in my life. And my answer was, I've never had it in my life. I'm very happy. I don't have a reason to have anxiety. And they never asked me that again, because it was pretty clear I was having problems.
Well, I'm so pleased to hear that they treated this as a biological medical issue, not as a psychological issue, as has been reported, as you've probably seen on previous videos.
Yes, yeah, and I feel very sorry for those people.
Yeah.
It's already scary enough.
Yes.
And then to have that happen is not okay.
Yes.
So I got sent home and told I was fine because everything came back fine. I don't blame them for that.
Well, apart from the fast heart rate, of course.
Yeah, but I knew I wasn't. So immediately after that, I tried to book a meeting with my GP at the facility where I was vaccinated, and I couldn't get a meeting for about 4 weeks. So
really?
I dealt with this for about, I don't have my timeline, about another week and a half.
So it was about 10 days, 14 days.
And this was non-stop. And it got to a point...
So non-stop fast heart rate, non-stop pain?
Yeah, non-stop pain, fast heart rate, heavy chest, couldn't breathe properly, obviously couldn't sleep. I'd have to sit up, or most of the time I'd lie down sometimes. I definitely could not lie on my stomach. I've only just been able to start doing that because the pressure would cause kind of jolts, and it would hurt. And I would find myself, if I did go to sleep because I sleep on my stomach, I would actually wake up in the middle of the night with a jolt. I would just go boom, and it would just immediately wake me up.
The pain would wake you up, yeah.
Yeah. So that was happening for this whole time, and it got to the point where this was a bit tough. It got to the point where I'd written down all my...
Musician is the best way to learn, practice, and master the
parents.
Yeah.
Just 2 seconds, John.
No, it's no problem.
So that's how scared I was about potentially dying. It was getting pretty serious. So at that point, I called my GP and said, I need a meeting immediately. I'll take anyone, any cancellation. And I was lucky to get one the next day, which was great. So I went in and I saw a new GP that I'd never seen before, and she was fantastic. I walked in there and I explained all my symptoms. She'd seen the stuff from the ED, and she had on her desk, after I explained my symptoms, this, which is the Australian government's myocarditis, pericarditis, post-COVID vaccine PDF. She had that printed out, and she said, "You're the second person I've seen today, and that's why I have this." And she's the one that got me the referral to the cardiologist. And I got another ECG done, I got bloods done again, and she was very adamant that I had to see the cardiologist, and I can't thank that lady enough for actually looking after me.
That is correct medicine. I'm so pleased that you got that and weren't brushed off with.
Yeah. She really brought me a lifeline. And because I've heard from other people that have not had the same experience. So after that, I called, I know you're supposed to wait for the cardiologist to call you, but I called them. I think that was a Friday. first thing Monday to try and book. I called them Tuesday to try and book, and I called them Wednesday. Then finally I managed, because I needed to get an echocardiogram before I saw the cardiologist. I finally got to book a echocardiogram, but I had to take a cancellation, which was in a different town, but I said I will travel 3 hours for this. I don't care. I need this ASAP. Because the receptionist said there was no bookings until, so this was in December, there was no bookings till January 22nd because they were fully booked out. And she said to me on the phone, we used to not be able to put these away. So that was another weird thing for me to hear amongst all of this.
So the echocardiography of your gone from to working completely flat out.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's a coincidence or if it's just what happens this time of year. I'm not a health professional.
We were just reporting what they've reported.
Yeah. So I managed to get that echocardiogram, and thankfully that was my first verdict. That came back pretty good, which was very pleasing, and that's when I saw the cardiologist for my first meeting. He asked me to explain all my symptoms the same as I'm explaining to you now. And in that meeting, he actually told me at the end that I had severe pericarditis, but I later found out he'd written down myocarditis on the report. So in that meeting, I was told, obviously, to not exercise, and my GP also told me to stop exercising, don't do anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which I didn't know about.
Why should you? Why should you?
Yeah. So I saw the cardiologist, and he said, and I think this timeline for when I'm probably 7 weeks at this point, and I was getting better. So I wasn't scared. Didn't think I was going to die anymore, but I was concerned for the damage that had been done. I wasn't sure what it meant. And if I was going to be doing basically. That meeting I got cleared to start exercising very light.
By the cardiologist?
Yes.
Yeah, fair enough, yeah.
And I wasn't prescribed anything then. So up until this point, the GP said to take 2 ibuprofen a day, twice a day. So I think it was 4. So I'd been taking that. So I'd had no medication up until this point. That was like 2 days before Christmas. So I spent Christmas with the family, felt fine. I had 1 alcoholic beverage, like a little glass, and I don't drink, so I probably had 10 drinks over 2 years. Like, as healthy as you can be. Then Boxing Day, I spent the day out in the sun on jet ski of my mates, but I drank like 4 of those 1.25 litre bottles of water. That night I felt a little weird. My chest was sore. The next morning I had golf with my family, and after the first hole, my heart rate spiked to 160, and I was having, like, this was a new pain. I was having a squeezing pain that ended in, like, it felt like someone was digging their nails in, and it was in that location I said earlier, and it was at the bottom of my heart. So it was squeezing and gripping, and it was making me wince. So I was pushing this car, and I was going like that when it would happen, and I got really concerned with that.
Of course, it's terrifying, yeah.
Because I'd just been cleared as well, so my mind was a little freer. I thought I'm going to be okay. So when this happened, I had a bit of a breakdown at this point because I thought I was okay, and I went straight back to hospital because I had one of those incidents last like 30 seconds, and I was very nervous about that. Luckily this time the ED saw me straight away, and I don't know if he was a heart specialist, but he had a special heart sign on his shirt, and he was brilliant. He spent so much time with me. He printed this thing out again and gave it to me. He explained what was going on. I asked what I should be nervous of as per what is a heart attack, and he said that these pains were probably the pericardial sac rubbing against the heart, and that's why I had that tearing feeling. And and that I needed to take it easy, and he prescribed me with colchicine, which is a gout medication.
It is. I'm not familiar with it. It's like an anti-inflammatory that's used for gout for years, but it seems to be effective against pericarditis.
Yeah, so I'm still on that. I've got to take about 12 weeks. I'm almost at the end of it, and it prescribed me with 6 ibuprofen, 2 3 times a day.
Which is quite reasonable because that's a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug, so it does have anti-inflammatory properties.
And he gave me another thing for stomach ulcers to battle.
To cover that,
yes, and I forgot to add that my cardiologist said the same thing that the GP said. He said that he's seeing this much more than reported in young, healthy, fit males. And I just said, that's what I've heard too.
Now, you kind of set the medical record, Brendan, and I've read, you can't name your cardiologist, obviously, it's confidential, but I've seen the diagnosis from your cardiologist saying you have myopericarditis post-vaccine. That is your cardiologist's diagnosis. Post-vaccine myopericarditis. I've read that, and give you my word that I've read that.
I can show you how to go from 0 to mastering the piano.
Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so, and make sure to check the notifications bell to never miss a new video. Also, I now offer online piano lessons, so if you're looking for one, there's going to be a link in the description below. So I've done a video quite a few months ago about the best adult method books, and for some reason this one was left out. I don't know why. I don't think I've ever heard of many of the Bastian books because they're not very common in the UK. I've known about the basic kids series, but now that I went onto the website, I saw that they have loads and loads of series, different kinds, old and new. Also, some of you were asking me in the comments for my opinion of this book, so I had to do a review of it. So I got this book and I had a good look through, and I had a look through the second one as well. And I have to say it's actually quite a good method, but in this video I'm going to tell you my pros and cons, and I'm also going to quickly page through and show you a rough overview of what you're going to learn from it and how quickly concepts are introduced. So let's start with the book, the series, the structure, and what you can get in it. So as I said, it's for adults, and this is an all-in-one edition. And I'm very happy to see that most of the adult piano books are becoming all-in-one, because you have to realize that theory and technique and sight reading is all part of being a pianist. You can't leave it out, but when it's broken into 4 separate books, especially adults are more likely to just get the lesson book and cut corners here and there and take, a shortcut. But it's not going to be a good result in the long run. And I think the publishers realized that and tried to put everything into one book, so it's an all-rounder and everybody's going to get all the benefits from one book instead of always looking through 4 books and trying to find the matching chapters and so on. Now this course comes in 2 books. As you can see on the back, there is book 1 and book 2, and both of these books are accompanied by CDs if you buy the CD version, and the newer version, the newer edition, has online resources so you can actually access the music with a code from the book, because obviously no one has a CD player anymore. So 2 books, 1 and 2, and it doesn't really give you any option to progress after book 2. With the kids editions, you've got quite a wide range of books from level 1 to level 5, and then you've got the new traditions, and then you've got the older beginners, but with the adult it's just 1, 2, and then basically I assume that they think that after book 2 you're ready to just play repertoire, like proper piano pieces. Now you also have a few supplementary editions. You've got 2 Christmas books, and you have classics, you've got religious favourites, you've got solo repertoire, easy classics, and favourite melodies. So as you can see, there's a little bit of everything apart from real pop rock music and jazz, so that's something you'll not find in the supplementary books. Now, the course creators claim that this is a classical method, so it's focusing on classical music, but on the website they also state that you're going to learn hymns and spirituals and traditionals and a bit of everything in these books, so it's not strictly classical, but they claim that this is a classical approach and a classical method. Now, as you can see, this edition again is comb-bound, which means that the book stays nicely flat when you put it on the piano, which is a must when you get a piano book, especially if you have worksheets, because it's very difficult to use perfect bound books when you want to play from them, as they quite often close in front of you. So that use perfect bound books when you want to play from them, as they quite often close in front of you. So that was about the edition, the structure of the series, and the supplementary books and the available resources. Now let's have a look inside the book and let's see what we find inside. The book has 8 chapters and it's 160 pages. So quite a thick book, it has a lot of information. I would say that this is kind of a medium-paced book, medium to fast-paced. Now, if I have to compare it to the other 2 most popular books, Piano Adventures and Alfred's Basic Piano Course, then I would say it's kind of in between the 2. It follows the same kind of ideas as Piano Adventures and lays out the concepts in a similar way, and the repertoire is quite similar to Piano Adventures, but it puts a huge emphasis on chords and playing chords, understanding chords, and that makes it more like the Alfred method, which again is very chordal based in the left hand. Having said that this is a classical method, actually I think that 80% of the repertoire is traditional songs, spirituals, and made up little tunes. It's very few actual classical pieces that you'll find in the first book, and I do understand that it's very difficult to play real classical music at this level, especially at the very beginning stages, but if you look at the classic piano course or the Piano Adventures, they incorporate slightly more classical pieces in their repertoire inside the book. So I just wanted to mention that because they claim that this is a classical method, but I feel like it's more spiritual, traditional, and kind of everyday songs as opposed to a proper classical method. The way the book is laid out, again, is more like a mixture between traditional church and classical playing. It's not a traditional classical approach in the sense that there is so much emphasis placed on chords that you would never find something like that in a proper classical approach, and that's why I said it's kind of in between Piano Adventures and Alfred's method. Now, I want to mention some of my favorite things about this book, and then I will mention some of the things that I found were missing or not so great. So the first thing is that this book contains a lot of worksheets, so it's supposed to be theory as well, and I will show you an example here. So that's the worksheet. You can see there's a lot to fill in. The worksheets are focusing mostly on intervals and chords and note recognition and some rhythms, so it doesn't go too much into like writing scales and dynamics and other aspects of music theory. It focuses mostly on recognizing notes and chords, but you will find a lot of worksheets in this book, unlike in Piano Adventures or Alfred, which has very limited worksheets compared to this one. So from the music theory aspect and worksheet aspect, I think this one is the best from the 3. I like the layout of the book as well. It's nicely laid out, it's spacious, it's not too crowded, it's not too small, and all the important
Я никто, я не вообще никто, у меня 0, нету денег у меня вообще, 0 прибыль.
Concepts in the book, so it's actually a really good book for learning by yourself. The book is quite comprehensive, it introduces concepts in a nice
вот как вот объяснить, что-то непонятного. Вы кто? Я дирижер, но безработный. Я кто? Ну, артист хора безработный, наверное. Пианист просто порошочник. Пианист понарошку, да. Пианист это тот, кто играет, и деньги за это получает. Что непонятного-то? Если денег, в чем подвох тогда? Что ты за пианист тогда, что деньги? Что ты за поэт, которого никто не читает? Что ты написать? А, тебя в будущем будут читать? Да не надо это все загонять, да, вранье. Да. Так надо жизнь жить, потому что а не на завтра все откладывать, никакого, тем более на это обман такой, если угодно. Ложь это потому что надо прямо сегодня продаваться. Значит, плохая поэзия у тебя, значит, ты не знаешь общества, значит, ты брезгуля, не работаешь над собой, значит, ты не благородный человек. Да, людей не уважаешь, если да, долгий разговор, здесь негде ошибиться даже, понимаешь? Заполни своими, я откуда знаю твои какашки там. Да, надо прямо сегодня продаваться за деньги, вот это понимаешь, да? Ну, по-своему скажи, делай, чтобы быть специалистом, да. Не визави, не визави. Жить-то можно, это говорит тебе все замечательно. Не то, что можно, куда денешься. Ну, все,
challenges. If I compare this book to the first book of A Dozen a Day, which is just a very simple kids technique book, you're going to find far more about technique in that book than in this book. And it does introduce staccato, it does introduce chords, it gives you some pictures and hand shapes and so on. But apart from 2 finger exercises, one by Hannon, and there's another one, I think made up one in the later chapters, it's very limited what you're going to do regarding technique, so you need to supplement the book either with A Dozen a Day, Cherry, Hannon, or some other exercises to make sure that those fingers really develop independence and your fingers are equally trained. Another thing that was missing is scales and arpeggios. The C major scale doesn't appear until the very end of the book, and by that time you're actually playing quite complicated songs. And I feel that one scale should be learned at least by the middle of a beginner book, because you have to start practicing the full crossings, you have to start practicing even playing in sequence, and some broken chords or arpeggios would be very useful as well. Now the C major comes in the very last chapter of the book, and you're going to learn a small broken chord, but not actual arpeggios. So that's something that I'm missing from the book, and I think it could be included much earlier on, but it's just one of those things. So these were just a couple of notes about the book, and things to look out for, watch out for if you're deciding between this and other piano methods. Now let's start going through from chapter 1 and see what we find. The very first page, you'll see this little introduction to piano playing, hand shapes, keyboard geography, how to find notes, black notes, white notes, and so on. And on the next page, you'll see the notes and Moving on, we get basic rhythms and a worksheet, and after that we start playing songs in 5-fingered positions, and it's just pre-notation. A couple of kind of spirituals and 2 little classical tunes. Just on the next page, when we come to play 3 notes, it throws in 4 chords and play them in sequence and count as well. So again, I think this completely